to order. Our first order of business tonight will be reading the mission statement. I'm happy to read that for you, or I can pass this on to Chris tonight.
By all means. Thank you. The mission of Monument Academy is to provide a challenging, content-rich academic program offered with an engaging, caring, and positive learning environment established on a solid foundation of knowledge. Monument Academy emphasizes academic excellence, respect, responsibility, character, and exemplary citizenship.
Thank you, sir. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Mr. Witkowski? Mrs. Cole?
Present.
Mr. Dole?
Present.
Ms. McEwen?
Present.
Ms. St. Aubin has an excused absence, and Brian Graham is present. You each have been handed the agenda. Conditions or approval, or can we get approval for the agenda tonight?
I'll motion to approve the agenda as presented.
The second motion.
Mr. Witkowski? Okay. Mrs. Clinton?
Aye.
Mr. Dole?
Aye.
Mrs. McEwen?
Aye.
And Brian? Agenda passes. Ms. Clinton, do we have any citizen comments pertaining to the agenda?
We have one from Mrs. Stolper.
Mrs. Stoltenberg, just to remind you, 3 minutes, please.
Yep. So I know we're all going to get a chance to share and speak tonight, but I just wanted to make sure 2 things were shared really loud and clear, and may not be everybody's opinions, my opinions. One is as we're looking for room for where to put kids as the school expands, please do not consider moving 6th grade back to the old campus. We're growing. We want to continue growing our foundation. If we squish down classrooms, we're minimizing how many classrooms we can use to grow our elementary. We're also limiting the resources of those 6th graders in what arts teachers, what just all the extracurriculars that they can take part in. We're also stopping the hands of our 6th grade teachers potentially who are in this beautiful building and then have to go back over there and then talk about carpool issues when we're about to go into construction over there. And then we take a whole nother several hundred students and put them back over there. So that's going to be stupid if we do that. So I want to throw that out there. The other thing is as we look at plans to grow, sports are important, but our school is never going to compete sport-wise with PR and LP. That's not what we're here for. We're here for competing academics and getting our kids an academic background that they want to get elsewhere. We're here for the small size. We want to grow. Our sports are never going to be that size. They're going to be our size. So if we are in budgets and we're looking for this or that, yes, we need sports fields. Our kids need to be developed as a whole. But don't go into it looking like we're trying to match LP and PR because we're here for a different purpose. So those are just the 2 things I wanted to say. I know it'll all come up more, but that's okay.
Please, Mrs. Stoltenberg. Ms. Clinton, do you have any other public comments?
No.
All right, moving on to the business at hand. I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Marketing, Ms. Amy Torrance.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to see everyone's faces here, and I know your brains are full of ideas, and we can't wait to get in there and let those start coming out. It's just very exciting to be in this phase already. You know, we've been here in this new campus for a year, and it's such a big difference, you know, in terms of marketing and reaching students, potential students. They want to see what they're coming to, and their parents want to come and tour it and walk it. And we're so excited for all of you to be here and give input to this next phase, that we can truly capture what our parents are looking for, what our staff is looking for, that all of us can come together and have input into this exciting new phase and growth at Monument Academy. Merlin Holmes, our new COO, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet him, very approachable, happy to talk to you anytime. He has been through 8 school builds in his long education career, and 2 of those are high schools. So his brain's already turning, and we can all get our brains together tonight and really start out strong with a great foundation for phase 2. So, Merlin Holmes, COO, Monument Academy.
things that got me started on this thinking was my first week here at Monument Academy. Julie walked into my office, I think one day, and she goes, well, just so you know, we're running out of space like right now. So I want her to just talk a little bit about the space we have here, how we're using it, kind of what the challenges are, not only this year, but looking at next year and forward. So I wanted her just to talk about that a little bit tonight, and just so that we kind of all understand we're all on the same page of where we actually really belong. So.
All right, good evening, everyone. It has been exciting to grow into this building, even in just 1 year and a few months, but we are filling it. So we added 100 students this year in grades 6, 7, and 8, and the addition of the next freshman class. And as we began to fill our classrooms through our academic wings, we have 6th grade in a pod here and 7th grade in a pod lower. Upstairs we have 8th grade on the end, and we have high school and electives because we have Spanish and Latin that we offer right up here in these groups of 4. We expanded unique for our high school students. We wanted to give them their own space that felt like high school, and so we moved into that media room and created that to be a space for our high school students to take their concurrent enrollment classes and to have some English and history classes in there. So we've got some flexible seating in there and tables, and they can move that around, and it's kind of a unique space for high school, which is nice. And and then we have all of our electives classrooms all around this U-shaped, and every classroom is filled every period except for somewhere between 2 to 5 classes a period. And so we're maxing out at that space this year too. So we are excited about our growth and looking forward to the possibilities as we continue to grow and add students in high school.
Thank you. And one of the things that I truly believe in is we're growing right because people recognize the quality of education the Monument Academy is providing. I think that's a very, very important piece of this discussion. And part of what we need to do is, as we grow and fill our high school, we don't want that to change. We want to make sure that we're providing the facilities and the staffing and the other programming that our kids need to get a great education at Monument Academy. And I do believe that over the next 2 to 3 years, that Monument Academy High School will be the place for people to go in this part of Colorado, and that we're going to be the choice among kids, especially those. But one of the challenges we've had, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, is that a lot of our 8th graders haven't been staying for 9th grade. So that's one of the key questions that we want to talk about tonight, about how can we address that and what's important around that particular question. Because I do believe we've got a lot of great kids in our school. The high school kids we have are doing really well. There are a lot of great kids there as well, but we'd like to keep a few more of them. So here's what I'd like to do tonight. I would like to give all of you the opportunity to talk with each other some more. And so I would love it if you would get, all of you have a copy or two of this sheet that we sent out as an invitation. And so Mrs. Seymour's really kind of addressed the question number 1 of what are the immediate needs. Immediate needs are we're just running out of space. So we need more space. But I'd like you to get, and some of the tables might need to move around, but if you could get at a table at least 5 people, and I think there's no more than 8 chairs at a table. So for each table, I would like you to talk through questions 2, 3, 4, and 5 at your table. And I want you to, well, before you go, you just like this. Wait first. I'm sorry. It's a teacher in me. I start teaching the class. Sorry about that. Have somebody that's recording things, and then while you're talking, have somebody that's going to be willing to share back to the group, so we can all hear each other's ideas, okay? Because we do want this to be an idea sharing format. Does that make sense? So just be thinking in terms of that as you go through it. And I'll just kind of give you some time declarations, like if you're still on question 2, maybe move to question 3 and some of that kind of thing, and try to keep it on track. Because we like to, keep an hour for this meeting probably is good, and then I can hang around and answer questions and talk some more with those people too. Okay? So groups of 5 to 8, and then let's talk through questions 2, 3, 4, and 5. Think of some of your ideas. I might kind of mosey around. I think board members also kind of walk around. Okay, let's try to come back together, share some ideas with each other.
It's not as bad as there has to be. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not great compared to the other
But this year's way worse than last year. By adding, yeah, we're adding grades that are coming.
To be fair, let's share some ideas around the question of what keeps more kids from 8th to 9th grade. But let's just share one idea from your table so we kind of get around to it. Okay? All spend quite a bit of time on that.
High school
A good one to spend some time on. So let's maybe start over here. Maybe what's one idea you had about keeping more 8th graders to 9th grade?
Okay. Well, I'll answer it too. I wrote. Well, one thing that they made pretty clear is that the kids wanted to feel like high school and not like it's a part of middle school. And so to keep kids from 8th grade continuing on into high school, that the part of the building that is the high school really needs to feel like it's on this program.
Good. How about this table? What's an idea you guys had?
Am I the spokesperson? So a big part of it was expanding, being able to really come through and follow through with expanding the academic classrooms, so space, but also high school specific electives that are really going to separate them from having middle school and high school electives be together, and let the high school kids have their own thing, and the middle school kids have their own thing where they gradually are moving up into the high school electives.
Okay. All right. How about back here? One idea you had in that question?
We need to offer quality, that's both academic as well as with athletic programs. We're offering quality, and community sees that we're offering quality. That is going to attract parents and students to want to enroll their kids here.
Okay. Communications, PR. Good. Quality. Okay.
I'm going to piggyback on the quality, specifically on the sports side. I just collectively felt that sports is actually a very, very important part of high school and the success of MA, to the point that I would say that if we don't have sports, the high school will not be. But I would clarify that, and Kim, I respect your comment on this specific about we're not competing with LP and PR.
Right.
But I would redefine it to this gentleman's point that for the quality, we're focused on niche sports. Golf, lacrosse, volleyball, basketball. We're not soccer, we're not football, we're not the big sports. That's not to say we can't have that, but that's not our focus. We're focused on niche sports. If I can add one other comment, I thought this was actually a really good idea that it may not have made it all the way across the table. Merlin, you may know this or this, but a Big Brother, Big Sister program with the upper current 9th and 10th graders partnering with our 7th and 8th graders to really get them excited moving into the high school facility.
Okay. Very good. How about this table?
I think the one thing that hasn't been mentioned so far, 2 of us have high schoolers, and they do enjoy the smaller class size, and that is different than the high schools where you don't know your teachers and you don't know your peer group because it's so much larger.
Very good. Other ideas along that question that are just trying to get out there that haven't been mentioned yet?
The concurrent enrollment is well received. 10th graders.
Kids say Maryland, Monument Academy is historically had a great music, choir, stellar, Jasmine, absolutely stellar. And so I would say kind of a performing arts type of theater. We're talking about 3 different things, academics, sports, and theater. I think that would be stellar. Monument Academy has always been I remember being at a choir concert or jazz band, and literally, this is so good, they can almost charge admission. And so we be what we are, and we do that with excellence. It's not like we're going to compete with Tom Hofer's football. We don't need to. Kids could even choice in, still stay and play football if they wanted, like what Chris said, some of the big sports. But do what we do well. In performing arts, we do super crazy well. Monument Academy's always excel at that.
Yeah, and I might take just an opportunity to give you a quick comment on what I've seen work other places and throw in one of my dad's favorite little farm jokes. We believe that Monument Academy, our base is our great education program, and that we need to make sure that never changes. But my dad but I do think activities like our orchestra program, our band program, our theater program, athletic programs that are done really well, and the kids want to be a part of, are part of what attracts them to stay here. Even if they like, well, I'd really love to stay for the academics, but we don't have this, or this. We need to offer some of those things, but along with that, we need to make sure one thing doesn't happen. My dad used to have a phrase called, don't let the tail wag the dog. You know, and we need to make sure that our academics always stays paramount and the most important thing that we do, but our support programs and activity programs around that can be of very high quality and be the kind of thing that do attract students to be a part of us. And then they come and they realize, oh, I'm also getting this phenomenal education. So everything that we do, we want it to be quality. And I think if we make sure that we're focused that academics always comes first, then we can do some of those things at the same time. It doesn't have to be an either or. But we do see that in our culture, so people have every right to be concerned about that. And sometimes it doesn't go that direction. So that's a lot of great ideas on what we can do to keep 8th and 9th. And Amy and I have discussions every now and then, Julie as well, about how do we encourage more of our 8th graders to stay? What do they need? And I think part of what I heard a couple groups talking about was we'll have those conversations with the kids themselves. One of the things that's true in this process, and I've seen it several times as I've seen organizations grow through middle school up, is that for the most part, in elementary, parents make the decision about where their kids go. In middle school, it's kind of a conversation, but mostly the parent ends up making the decision at the end. In high school, it's different. For most families, the high schooler will be allowed to make that decision. And that's just, that's not every family, but that's a big trend that you see, and that's usually the way it works. And so we do need to be having those conversations with kids, and that's part of what we plan to do, is get into those classes and talk to them and find out what's making them tick and what we can do to make it a place that they want to be. They love being here, you can tell that just walking through the hallways. But how do we get them to also think of, this could also be a great place for me for next grade. Let's move on to the next question. So, in the final design of the campus, what needs to be added as a facility? So since you guys went last time, we'll let you go first this time. How's that work?
I've got two.
Oh, no, just one. If no one else answers there, we can come back to
Performing Arts Center.
All right? Performing Arts Center. How about over here? What are yours?
Sorry, what's the question?
What needs to be added to this campus to complete this campus?
This table said the academic wing, but also full-size field, full-size gym. You name it.
Okay, this table.
Healthy Performance Arts Center. Arts is something that Monument Academy's kind of known for, that we kind of need to support our arts program by having a Performance Arts Center. Academically, definitely another wing just for space-wise. Athletically, either or both, a gym and or football and track.
Over here?
Ditto.
And over here.
That's
All
really,
the above?
yes.
Okay. Okay, over here?
Maybe auditorium came up a lot, or something that we should strive to have.
Okay. Another one going around, one left.
Ryan, you get to use your second one if you haven't already.
Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Be cool.
Stuff like that can differentiate Monument Academy. schools which don't have them.
Then like you talk about hockey match.
Well, one of the things that's hard to get if
Dan, if we get the pool, just freeze it over for hockey and ice.
you know the swimming pool time and ice time is really hard to get. You go early in the morning or really late at night, all those kind of things. So.
Pay for the portables.
That's right.
We're gonna get emails tonight.
Well, and part of the challenge is that we can think of all the things we love to do, but part of it is we probably are going to have to prioritize some of that. Right? I mean, one person gave us an estimate of around $40 million to build out the things that we would most likely want. And the things on their list were basically the things that we just talked about. But so part of what we have to think in terms of what's priorities for right now and what might be a priority for later. But it's important to have that discussion for now, so we don't build something, in the place where the pool goes eventually, okay? Or we don't build on top of the athletic field when we're building something we, depending on how the priorities rank. We just need to make sure we have a good plan for this campus. And so part of what I want, question or comment?
It was a really nice comment. A really nice idea from our teacher. But we were talking about space for cafeteria, eating space, common space, and space for teachers, so the academic wing is immediate need. That's the highest need in our view. But looking at this picture, we said let's put a roof over this courtyard instead of having an outdoor courtyard there. Close that in and have an NPR space where we could even do performances in there, perhaps. Cafeteria space, multi-purpose space.
I just look at that and go, including more space to get outside is nice for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Monuments. These are older monuments.
That was just glaring. Like this space.
If that's a conversation.
Yeah, so a lot of those conversations, part of the challenge why people don't see it very often, is you have to sprinkle the roof over it, you have to sprinkle it. And you got to blow it in. But it doesn't mean it can't be done.
As opposed to the auditorium right away, or, something a lot.
So here's what I'd like you to do. I've put together a sheet that kind of includes some of the basic pieces that most campuses like ours would have. And then I've also included some lines for the write-in votes. Does that make sense? And I'd like you to everybody to fill one of these out. We talk about one, is that piece of the building must have? Is it a good idea, but and then if it's to you, if it's like, even if it's the most important thing to your neighbor, if to you it's not that important, mark it that way. And that's how we get good, honest feedback, is make sure that we market that way. And then for the things that are the most pressing, the things that we should look at for immediate need, circle those so we can highlight those for probably phase 2. Does that make sense? And then we'll also get a copy of this out to the rest of the community that couldn't be here tonight, and get feedback from them as well. Does that make sense? So, and then while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about timelines a little bit, if that's all right. If you don't get enough, I'm going to hand you that. I'll grab a few more.
They have wrestling spaces.
If you need a couple more, just grab them. Yep.
Ready to get one?
So, just talk a little bit about some general timelines. And as I talk to this, please understand these are goals and plans. They are not.
See us slip in, sorry.
Everybody say that? This is not a promise. Right? I don't know, when we get excited, it's real it's real easy to confuse those two things.
Mr. Holmes, what's a makerspace?
A makerspace is kind of like it's used, art people use it, science people use it. It's used to create art drawings, maybe metalworks as well. And then it's kind of a blend of science and art and creation space. They're very, very popular in schools these days. Most new schools have makerspaces.
Like if you major, that also your life.
Oh, true.
I mean, no, you could have multi-space.
So just to give you an idea on timeline, one of the things we are working on right now, our finance committee has had several discussions about it. Mr. Brocklehurst and I have talked to bond experts. We're also looping another expert into some of our finance committee meetings later on this month about refinancing our current bonds for this building and then borrowing additional money to build out phase 2. We hope that we can get that done in the next 6 to 9 months. Get that process, get that refinancing process done. So that then we can, and as that's moving forward, we'll get a pretty good idea of whether that's going to happen and kind of the timeline for that. And then we can start to engage potential architects and construction companies and begin to create plans. So we're hoping that by this time a year from now, we have broken ground on building additional space for this campus. Okay, so that's kind of a rough timeline that we're hoping that we can meet, but obviously these things are subject to interest rate fluctuations, they're subject to construction cost fluctuations. There's a lot of hurdles that have to jump through, and I know some of you that work in this space for a living know how difficult some of this can be. But we think we have a very good team. A lot of our board members have expertise that they can contribute to this. Like Amy mentioned, I've done this a few times. One time we built a school in less than 6 months, which is lightning speed, but it can be done if you schedule your subcontractors correctly and work people really hard. But you got to have a lot of really good plans. But we're hoping not to have to do that. That would not be primary way we're hoping to do things. So that's a general flow of timeline. Questions on any of that, or questions on anything else we've talked about tonight? And while you're finishing those up, I want to also kind of do Q&A as well, just to wrap up any questions that you have, things that are primary in your mind, and make sure that we're getting the feedback we need to make this project really done well. Yes.
So at our table, it came up that our current 8th graders are feeling really crowded as they're deciding where to go to high school. Something that they want to hear is, will there be space for them, not come next year, because they know they're not ignorant, but but come by the time their 10th grade year starts, so August of 23. Is that still in the timeline where we're going to see this phase 2 roll out, do you think?
Right, that's when the plan is that by August of 23, we would have more space built here. That's our timeline, and that's part of why we want to get in and talk to kids in classes so that they
Is that
can
something we can
hear that
communicate to our students?
directly. Yeah, you can tell them the plan is to have more space by August of 2023. Yeah. But again, tell them, there's lots of caveats to that, and a lot of hurdles that have to do them, that it's something that we're working on, and we'll be in classrooms as well, talking to them, saying, hey, here's the things we're working on. Because I think you're right that some of our 8th graders, if they know things are coming, it will help them to say, okay, well, I do want to stay in if I know things are coming. And that will be more definitive by spring than it is now. Does that make sense? So we'll be able to speak to that more clearly and more succinctly in 6 months. Other questions that came up at your table that conversation?
You should know all this, but what's our present capacity and perhaps future capacity max if we add another wing, et cetera?
Right now, there are almost 500 students in this building.
Wow.
So 400 of those are middle school, then about 75 high school, which tells you that the max capacity of this building is about 500 to 550 somewhere. If we build the second academic wing, then it really basically doubles the capacity of the building. So it gets us to around 900 to 1,000 students probably.
Do we have a goal per grade? Once we have the second academic wing, are we looking at 100, 125, 200 per grade? Like what's our goal?
Well, I would love us to, one of the things I think that would distinguish us from other schools in the district is if we're what I call a medium-sized school. And from a sports perspective, it just means not a 4A or 5A school, but a 3A school. One of the things that when the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was supporting and financing high schools, charter high schools across the country, they did a tremendous amount of research on what size of school was the most effective academically, where kids were engaged, they had options, they had choices, but the schools weren't so big that they would fall through the cracks. And what their research shows was that 400 to 500 size high school was the optimum size, where more kids were getting a great education than any other size of high school. And I think if you think about this building being 900 students total, middle school and high school, that puts high school right about that 400 to 500 student size. And it does distinguish us from the other schools in our district that are much, much bigger than that, and will continue to get bigger.
Will we have enough funding for all the extras with the PPR from that small of a group?
Generally, I think charter schools in the state that have that, even the 300 to 500 size, do really well financially.
Okay.
They don't offer everything,
Right.
but they offer a lot of different choices with that size of school. Yes.
That's a little different. This gentleman back here mentioned quality, and he was talking about something different than I am going to speak to, but I was wondering, what are we doing to keep, retain, and hire the quality teachers? And are we doing any surveys with students on maybe teachers that aren't fitting what they were expecting or used to? So, and I know money is a big issue because you can't really increase wage. So what can we do to retain and keep those quality teachers to keep the academic level where it was or is?
Well, I think one of the, and I've talked about this with staff, one of my 3 goals financially for this school, besides building out phase 2 and making sure that we run at a positive net income each year, is to get teacher salaries up. And Mr. Brocklehurst and I have talked about that. We've talked about that with the board. It's one of those goals that we have. And we think if we do things well, and in some ways we may need to get more efficient to do that, but we need to get teacher salaries up. One of the things that's happened several times just in the few short months I've been here, is we've lost teachers due to pay issues. And it's not the only issue that causes people to leave an organization, but it is one that is affecting some of our staff. We've got some phenomenal teachers who stay here in spite of that, and we love them for it. In fact, I think we ought to give them a round of applause right now. There are a lot of great people who pour themselves into students in this school, and we're tremendously blessed to have them. But we don't want to ignore that issue forever, because it does impact who stays. And that quality teacher piece is the thing that impacts quality education the most. And the thing that teachers have heard me say is, I believe they are the ones who deliver the mission and vision of our school every single day. And if we don't have them, we don't have high quality teachers, then the rest of it is secondary. Not that it is secondary. So that's a great question, and we have to keep that in mind as we look at other things.
It was mentioned over here too that like certain things make it attractive as well. Like
having having teachers have their own spaces. I think that helps a ton with morale in our communities. Right now, it's rough.
Teachers on cards. Yeah.
How many teachers are on carts right now? 2.
Maybe on cards.
Yes.
And then there's a few other ones that, the lots of teachers share spaces here.
So when you're talking about a specific, each teacher have their own individual space, have a room for cubes for teachers, what, tell us your vision.
I'd like to be able to, on my plans in my classroom, use my space to cut paper and make materials ready and not have to get kicked out of my room so someone else can come in and use it because I have to use my space. So teachers being able to be in their classrooms not only while they're teaching, but during their plan times.
Okay, so having a space that is yours.
Yep.
Like that room
Dedicated
is
classroom.
always yours, okay.
Dedicated classroom.
Just trying to visualize, because there were a lot of conversations we had on that 2 years ago, trying to figure it out.
Dedicated classroom.
What all teachers share classrooms right now? I didn't know that.
I think one teacher, am I right, does not at all ever involve us. Is that correct?
I don't know if that works, but I don't know. But it's most teachers
Most teachers
are out of their room for one.
At
Right,
least
but
one.
I think we planned on that being temporary, as we were going to build the next wing and plan for it to grow and add the rest of the pieces around. We knew that was temporary.
So now going into phase 2, let's get rid of that temporary and let's give these
Exactly.
teachers their dedicated
So,
spaces.
and let me say, I just want to make this known publicly. I feel like I speak for all of us. That's fine with us temporarily. I mean, we're okay with that because we knew coming here is part of the growing part of it. And man, to work for this administration and this team, to be on board with this and this growth, I would take this in a heartbeat, temporarily, any day of the week, to grow with this team, hands down.
Thank you. We do have an awesome group of people, and we need to do what we can to keep them. And just like the kids, if those 8th graders know that by 10th grade it's coming, our teachers also know, okay, it's this year and next year, and then hopefully by the year after that, we can resolve the situation. And that's why, I mean, I've told the board since day one, it's like, well, my job number one is getting more space built. There's other things I do, other things I'm involved in, but it really is our job number one. We've got to get it done. And there's some tough financial decisions we'll have to make along the way, but I think we've got a great team. We've got some good partners. Like I said, I've done this before. There's things that we can do to make ourselves an attractive organization. The fact that we've been around since '96 helps a lot with people who finance buildings and know that we're a good, stable organization. We've got involved parents. That helps a great deal. We've got very high-quality staff that they can walk around the building and see that great education is going on. So there's a lot of good things in our favor. And that's why I feel comfortable saying, hey, we're starting the process. We're moving forward. Before we get too far down that road, we need a lot of community input on what the phase 2 build-out should look like, what's involved in it. Our architects kind of put together some basic renderings of what it might look like. But these are just discussion starter ideas. Okay, we're getting feedback and going to try to move forward in a way that we get what we need and make sure that we plan for the whole campus to eventually be exactly what we want. So, other questions or comments that we want to make before we wrap up tonight?
I just want to say how much I appreciate that you started a lot of our questions around what's going to keep 8th graders here into 9th grade, and guys, it goes all the way down to pre-K, of making sure we're filling the space down there in the other building, we're filling all those up, right, and getting that going, and then as they continue to grow, there's time for that growth, and you're right, for about 2 years here, it's going to be really awkward and squeezing, and we're all going to be cramped and trying to figure that out, but the more we can add to those classes now, all the way from K up, that's what puts the bill for us to pay our teachers more, for us to grow, for us to build.
All of that was part of our plan a couple of years ago, and we're still moving toward it, and I love that. I absolutely love that my son will be in that class that actually graduates in that new building. I love that. And he's excited about that. He absolutely loves his classes, his teachers. Every day, he comes home, all right, guess what we did? So, it's fantastic.
And the biggest asset that we have is our parents who are telling their friends how great of an experience their kids are having, how well they're cared for and loved by the staff here. So I would just encourage you all to continue to do that. Our biggest marketing arm is our parents.
I just want to say real quick, I'm new to Monument and new to town, and I have 3 kids, 2 in the lower division and 1 here, and so far we love it. And I've experienced a lot of public school systems across the country. We're military, and the back-to-school night in the elementary school, that's the first public school or public school of choice, charter school. Anyway, the first teacher that we've had that used the word love when talking about my kid. So just wanted to say that really fast. And then finally, for this specific meeting, just a final plug for athletic fields. And not just because you might have a kid that plays football. I selfishly do. But I don't think if you went to one of the bigger high schools, he would get much playtime. So it would be very attractive to me to be able to stay small at a place like Monument and still offer a program like football, but not just because he can play, but because of what football as a culture adds to a high school experience for the entire campus. You get homecoming, you get school pride, school spirit, and then you get kids that might not get a lot of playing time at the bigger programs that get to be well-rounded, and they can look back and say, I played high school football. So that's just my little plug.
Yeah, and we have tremendous participation.
Right,
in our
the
middle
culture
school
that comes
sports.
with football and all that
And
kind
we
of
had
stuff.
a great middle school program already, just more fun.
He has loved it, and it's been the best thing. He was in 7th grade, and it's been a godsend. So anyway, just so pleased and really, really grateful, so grateful to be a Monument, and excited to see it grow. So that's all. Thank you.
Right.
Because I think we had like 40-some girls sign up for volleyball this year. I saw the boys basketball sign up for this, and it's close to 50 now. So our kids want to be involved, whether they're, my son's actually played on one of the teams at LP that won a state title. There were like 8 guys on that team that played Division I and II basketball. That's not what we're trying to do when we say we want to support the
But academics first.
Academics first. Academics first. We want our kids to have opportunity to play if they want to. Question?
Kind of comes back to the marketing. We focus a lot about how to retain our current 8th graders, but how much pull do we have in getting kids from the other middle school to choose our high school?
So we try not to take from the rest of D38 unless there's not room. And as a real estate agent, and there's several of us here in the room, we can tell you flat out that Monument is about to add a couple thousand houses. Whether you love it or not, it's coming. And that's a great thing because it builds tax bases for our school district, and it does all kinds of things that our little town needs. But we have a couple thousand houses that are going in and being developed and were just approved, if we read our OCN correctly. Yay, love that. At the same time, Monument Academy, being a charter school, can easily pull folks from Douglas County, D20, D49, that are thrilled to drive up here if we're offering things that their kids want. We love that. We planned on that and thought about that as well. So, as D38 grows, which it is, there's going to need seats for all the butts. It's part of it. But at the same time, spread the word. Tell them how great it is. That's what we've been doing.
I would
Katie,
say,
did you want to talk about that? I know you've got some things planned.
well, I would say that, the community up here has some great options in school choices. And I think that for some families, that as their kids are growing and getting older, sometimes that school experience with that many kids at the middle school and looking into the high school can start
But there are some other things we're working on just to kind of put us on the map. There's also some K-8 charter schools within driving distance where they don't have a high school option at those schools. That might, some groups of parents might band together and say, we want to continue something that's similar to what we've been doing. And so we'll work out a carpool thing to get our kids to Monument. Whether it comes from, there's several in Castle Rock that I'm very familiar with. And then another one is New Summit Academy down in U20. They thought about starting high school, and they're not doing that. So some of their graduates, we already have a graduate or two of theirs in our school now. So those are other opportunities we have to talk to others. And like Amy said, there are some people who maybe been at Lewis Palmer Junior High who just think, Monument Academy looks like a better fit for my kid. And that's a great thing about parent choice. We just want to make sure that through our marketing, through our communication, through everything that we're doing, people know we're here and they know what we're about. And that's very, very important as we continue to communicate. Yeah.
With the addition of the potential facilities for fine arts and for athletics, those spaces can also be a big draw for community to use those things, especially the athletic fields. They're always short on space for that. And the auditorium can also be another draw as well for the community as it's growing. So maybe we could offset the aqua insurance exorbitantly expensive, but it could help.
Yeah, making our space available and being part of community projects that we're working on is a good way to do it. And sometimes there are even opportunities for community groups to partner with us in funding some of those things as well. So we need to explore those opportunities as well.
Marlon, how many other camps?
I think it's, somebody correct me, I think it's around 700.
So definitely room there, because up until 2 years ago, that was the only campus we had. Now we have 2 in the low senior fall. Fantastic.
That campus has more space available right now.
Eventually there could be some maybe busing back and forth. Not like a precedent.
Well, let's take maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then I'll stay around and talk to anybody that wants to, but then the rest of you will let you get out of here. Anybody got 2 more burning questions to talk to? Yeah.
At the beginning, Tim mentioned the discussion of possibly moving 6th grade back to the West Campus. Is that topic on the table?
Well, given the space issues that we have, more space over there and less space here, we are going to get some information from our current 5th grade parents. More than likely, it's going to be discussed at the board meeting Thursday night. We've talked to a couple of teacher teams already, and that's kind of leaked out, that we might look at that as an option. But we also, one of the options we look at is, could parents who are going to be 6th graders next year decide which campus they want? Would that be a possibility? So any of these things, we're gathering information, we're trying to plan the best we can, but we're not making any quick decisions. We want to make sure we get parent input on all of those things before we make any hard and fast decisions. Does that make sense? So just in the kind of casual conversation, some of that's kind of leaked out in the community. So it's one of those things where we're going to do some opinion gathering, see what 5th grade parents think about it. We've talked to our 6th grade staff here. That might be a possibility, just to get their input as well. So all this is part of that input gathering and planning that we need to do to make the best decisions that we can as a community before we move forward on some things. Does that make sense? All right.
Merlin,
Yes.
if people get a great idea at 2 in the morning, what should they do?
Give that to Amy. Now, one of the things that we need to do is the sheet that you got tonight, I'm going to email that out to the whole group. And probably ought to put a tag on there, a box at the bottom that says other comments or ideas, to add that to it, and then you can put your ideas in there and send those back as well. Because we know that when you schedule something for a random Tuesday night, not everybody can come. But we do know that our parents are passionate about this issue. We do appreciate all of you for coming up tonight and spending some time and really digging into this with us, because very helpful to hear all of your opinions, to be able to just kind of discuss them as well. So, thank you all, and again, I'll hang around for a while and talk to any of you need to, but we'll let the rest of you. And I'll go back to Ryan because they need to do a adjournment.
So on the 7th, yes. Thursday.
Hey, Lindsay, any non-agenda related item? No. Okay. Thank you guys for being here tonight. A quick announcement, we do have another board meeting this Thursday night, this campus, 6 p.m. We would love to see everyone here. Thank you for the engagement tonight. With that said, we'll take a motion for adjournment. Second. Mr. Kowski? Ms. Clinton? Mr. Gold? Mr. Hewitt? And Ryan Graham, aye. This meeting's adjourned.